What's going on, wrestling fans? Jeff Upson. I'm alongside Eric Knopsnyder, and you are now listening in to the Power Hour. And Eric, I'm fired up because we got a really good show for you here tonight. I'm rocking the Reynolds State Champion shirt. And look at this. They don't even have enough room to get all the years on there because they won the last 5. They're pretty good. Shout out Michael B. Hills for the shirt, man.
How come you get all the shirts? I don't get any shirts.
What do you mean?
You know what? Cleveland State had a thing on Twitter. They said, hey, send us a thing. We'll pick a couple guys and send them T-shirts. I said it. I said, yeah. And they said, oh, what's your address? It DM'd me, gave my address, nothing. I said, oh, yeah, I guess they don't want to be on the PA Power Hour. I mean, who wants to recruit Pennsylvania wrestlers, Cleveland State? Come on.
Sorry, man, but the Reynolds shirt's pretty sick. I gotta say. I mean, it's comfortable. It's nice. Look at it pops too. It like really pops. And
Your
it's
camera's not low enough though. All I get is state.
It's a 5-peat. It's a 5-peat.
Can't
shirt.
see 5 feet.
Well, the fans can see it. That's all that matters. The fans can see it. Yeah. Shout out Michael Hills. I mean, just one of the best ever. What they got going on in Reynolds is a good thing. Eric, we have so much to dissect tonight. We have so much to go over. If you're a Penguins fan, trust me, you might as well watch us instead of the Penguins. At least we're not going to cough up the puck in in overtime and just have a nice easy shot to win it. All jokes aside, I hope the Pens do win, but it's not looking great. Speaking of hockey, Robert Morris is dropping hockey, Eric, which is kind of crazy. I saw Jason Bryant tweeting about that, so obviously it's being felt kind of across the college sports spectrum here.
Yeah, and for me personally, I know some of the listeners may know, some others may not, but I actually have junior hockey players that live with me, have for the past 9 seasons. And one of my guys that lived with me for 2.5 years is at Robert Morris. And he FaceTimed my wife immediately today and said, it was just devastating news. Like so many of these programs that get cut, they had no idea it was coming. He said they walked into a meeting thinking they were going to tell him, oh, you guys have to get vaccines before next season, something like that. Nothing big. All of a sudden they're saying, hey, we're dropping hockey and you guys are kind of on your own now.
That sucks. I mean, that's unfortunately for wrestling fans, that's all too familiar song and dance about kind of just dropping, the program right away. I mean, I think back to Tristan Warner and when he got his award shipped back to him in like 5 pieces from Old Dominion. They're like, here you go. Like,
yeah, thanks.
Trying to sell the mats and stuff for a profit. That just sucks. Yeah. And I saw Jason Bryant say something. It's like the easy way out for leaders to bring about change is just to drop programs. So,
I wonder though, my wife brought up a point. She said, this Stanford wrestling and things like that, are they setting almost a bad precedent though, where there's a huge outpouring of support and people raise all kinds of money and the school says, no, we're not going to do it. Is this just a ploy now? And I'm not saying Robert Morris is doing this, but is this a move that schools are going to make? They're going to say, hey, we're kind of low on funds. So let's say we're going to cut it and then they'll raise a bunch of money and we won't have to pay for it. We'll get private donors to pay for the sport.
I think of it. It's bad to think of, but I think of it almost like a relationship, like between 2 people where you're kind of taking advantage of the fact that, if they, start raising all this money to save it, now all of a sudden you're saying, well, we're kind of short. Maybe let's say we're cutting a sport. And then I don't know. I think Stanford's kind of a unique situation.
Right.
Though.
And Stanford wasn't the best example. That's the one she used, not knowing the complete ins and outs of it, but she did know that they saved Stanford wrestling and that the school kind of went back on that. But
they saved all the sports. They saved all the sports. So
I think it's a dangerous precedent in some ways, though. Are we going to get to a privatization model where it's like, okay, you can have wrestling if you can pay for it yourself?
Very well. I mean, unfortunately, I wouldn't be too shocked if that's the way of the world. I would hate to see it that way, but yeah, you're right. It kind of sets it up to almost where that's what happens. Speaking of Stanford, Rob Cole, that's what a lot of people are saying. A lot of people are hearing, which is an interesting one because I never thought Rob Cole would leave Cornell, and I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying there's a lot of rumors around it.
be the benefit for him? I mean, he's got it rolling at Cornell now. I know they've had, a rough off season. They've had some issues there. So the dean's leaving, things like that. But I mean, why would you trade Cornell for where they are now to Stanford where they are now? I wouldn't see that as an upgrade,
Yeah,
especially for a guy who's from, the East Coast. It's not like he's a West Coast guy and is, going back to his roots, anything like that.
right. Yeah, I when someone said that to me when I first initially heard it, I'm like, no way. Like that doesn't make any sense because he's from PA, he's from State College. He goes up to Cornell to Ithaca. He has a great, program, a great support system. I can remember going to camps when I was younger in high school. We would go up to Cornell camps every single summer, and Rob Cole has it. I mean, he's got it made up there, in my opinion.
Well, and you can't say, if you were leaving Cornell for, a state school, you'd say, okay, well, it's too tough to get guys in academically. The standards are too tough. You're not easing up on the standards by going to Stanford.
True. You're absolutely right. That's not like you're going.
If anything,
Yeah,
your
if anything,
standards
maybe,
are probably getting harder.
yeah, they could be.
Because
West
I
Coast
know
school.
there's a school there's like somehow Cornell has a way of getting some guys into like an agricultural school affiliate that kind of helps get them some guys into school.
Yeah, so we'll keep you posted on that. Should Rob Cole depart the East Coast for the West Coast? But again, it's all just rumors at this point. Nothing concrete. Mainly, what we're going to talk about tonight is the PAUSAW State Tournament, specifically the freestyle tournament. We're going to talk about the 16 and under and also the junior division. And we're going to have a special guest come on, and that's Jack Consiglio of Malvern Prep here in just a few minutes. But Eric, this year especially, I mean, of course it was at Spooky Nook, right? Spooky Nook has, I'm pretty sure the state tournament is moving from the Giant Center to the Spooky Nook. Did you hear? Have you heard that?
Don't start that rumor now. we should have a PA Power office at Spooky Nook though. We need a branch, a satellite office there.
I mean, we probably would be
there.
They've got office space there. They got hotel rooms. We could just move there. I heard it's like Disney World for organized sports. Spooky Nook's pretty awesome. I have to admit it is pretty awesome. But they just have been holding literally every wrestling tournament known to Pennsylvania and also New York because Frank Popolizio held his state championships there. So Spooky Nook getting a lot of attention. The PAUSAW. I always want to say PAWF because that's what it used to be called, but now it's the PAUSAW. That which is the state organization that runs the state freestyle and Greco-Roman tournaments, qualifiers, trips to Fargo, etc. That was this past weekend. And we're going to focus again, like I said, on the 16 under juniors because we start getting down to the youth. We start getting down into a rabbit hole. Cole David Heiser, he won the 88-pound bracket. He's the younger brother of Cade. Joseph Garshnick,
yeah. One of my local guys.
Yeah, I was just going to say he's one of your guys. Eric, do you know much about him?
Yeah, well, I know I remember his dad wrestling and his uncle were both really solid wrestlers for United, and United went through some really, really lean years. Even this past year was probably the worst in school history in terms of the varsity. But on the flip side, the junior high program was really, really good. Won the Mountain Conference and is really on the upswing. So look out for some United guys in your top incoming freshmen, and those guys to watch in the next year or two.
I would say the last really exciting people coming through United was probably the Henderson brothers.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, and they didn't stay there long. One left after his freshman year, and the other after his sophomore year.
Right.
So it's been a while since you've had those state caliber kids. But yeah, Garshnick, good wrestling family from the area, and Joseph continuing that tradition there.
Yeah, he wins that at. What did I say? 94 pounds. Seth Kolb from Benton was second in that round robin. 100 pounds. Shane McFillin. He's from Red Hawk, Bethlehem Catholic. Kind of same as Nathan Desmond and Colin Rath. All those guys are big time names coming up through Becca. Davis Motika, who we saw at the Redemption, he was second. Nico Finella, All American, Indiana area, he was third. The big one for me was Landon Baney. Right, Landon Baney down at 106. Beats Tahir Perkins of Dark Knights. Now, I'm not sure where Parkins is going to end up in high school because he's a Stroudsburg kind of guy out that way. And like they can end up a variety of different places. He beats him in the finals. It was 12-0 Tech Falls. So Landon Baney, we had him on the team for Wranglemania for Team Pennsylvania. He looked really, really sharp. And kind of what his dad, Jason, was saying is he's finally grown in to that 106-pound body or weight class. And it really showed this past weekend.
Yeah, was he a guy, did when you talked to them, had he done a ton of freestyle before? I thought he was relatively new to it, but I think he's really growing into it now in that aspect as well, getting the experience in freestyle.
He certainly didn't look like he was new to it.
No, he does. I mean, you look at the scores here, he doesn't look like he's a newcomer at all to it. So maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe he has some pretty extensive freestyle experience, but yeah, he didn't allow a point in the tournament for Tech Falls.
Right.
And, what was it? 42-0 total. So
right.
Yeah, that's a pretty good tournament.
I would say so. And, obviously you look at the other competition there. Aiden Smith from Lost Boys, Notre Dame Green Pond, state medalist this year. Jack Gonzalez, tough freshman from Quaker Valley. So, I mean, you have some tough wrestlers here, and Parkins is one of the best freshmen that are coming up. The weight class that we're, really excited about is 113 pounds, Jack Consiglio of Malvern Prep. And this is a kid that we saw at Powerade just go on a tear, right? I mean, you look at all the people he beat, and when we bring him on here in a second, we're going to talk about the hit list that he had. But, it kind of culminated this past weekend against state champion Caden Williams of Manheim Township in the semifinals before winning in the finals against Weston Pisarchik. And really, Jack Consiglio has just been – I mean, I'm not saying he came out of nowhere, because he was a good youth wrestler, but, man, he just is – I think he's just really elevated his game, and really just looking at his hit list of this year, I don't think many would have expected that for him coming in.
No, I mean, he's just knocking off state champ after state champ like it's no big deal. I mean, the kid is just going out there and picking up big wins. And, he's been doing it all season, as you said, after he got rolling there, has just been going and knocking off guy after guy.
Right. And we are happy to be joined here by Jack Consiglio. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Very good. And Jack, I want to start by saying congratulations on just a stellar season that you've had this year. What has it been like this past year with Malvern? You guys are kind of getting into some big tournaments. It's your first year there. Talk about what that experience was like for you to wrestle in a tournament like Powerade and the National Prep Tournament, and now the state freestyle tournament.
Yeah, well, from a really very young age, I've been with this Malvern Prep wrestling program, like the club, alongside like teammates like Tommy Link, Spencer, Barnhart. So it's really like we're all really brought together closely. But even this year, we've really made great strides, I think, on our wrestling team. And then individually, of course, I think I made some good strides. But I'm just blessed, that we get to go to these big tournaments, and, I get to showcase like what my strengths are, and, look back at the matches and see what my weaknesses are.
Jack, I was putting together kind of a hit list for you for this season. And I mean, it's pretty amazing in such a condensed season, the amount of big wins that you were able to stack together. You beat 2020 state champ Brandon Wenzel. You beat 2021 state champ Louis Gill, Tyler Chappell, a third place finisher. Then you win the prep nationals, and then you go and knock off Caden Williams now in freestyle. Like, could you have envisioned this at the start of the season? You just going out there and knocking off big name after big name?
Well, to be honest, I wouldn't be here without my coaches and teammates. I said earlier, my coaches have really helped me this year with progressing. And then I think what really helped me this year was my confidence level, just to go out there and say, hey, this is another match. It's not something big. Just go out there and wrestle your best.
But does that build on it each one when you beat a Brandon Wenzel? Does that make it easier than facing another guy with those kind of credentials?
Well, I definitely think it does, because if I can beat the top guy, why can't I beat this guy? So it's progressions if I look at it like that.
And Jack, when you look at kind of like you said, progressions, when did you start wrestling, and really how you said you've been wrestling with Malvern for a while now. What was the transition like for you from kind of youth to high school to kind of jump levels? Because I mean, you really did jump levels from a youth level to now a high school level, where you're just you're really coming onto the scene pretty hard.
Yeah, well, I started off wrestling at my youth club, Methacton Outlaws. It's my public school, and then I started to go on these tournaments and see like this Malvern prep, singlets and stuff. My dad brought me to one of the practices, met Coach Nate, and from there just the ball kept rolling. But from moving up levels, I really do think it comes with who I get to wrestle with. I mean, if you look at my teammates like Tommy Link, Nick O'Neill, Spencer Barnhart, just a bunch of hammers in the room at every single practice. So I get different looks. They're different body types. I just think that like this year, it's a lot different, because like the hand fighting, the speed is a lot different. You can't just go out there and pin the kid. So there's definitely different things that transpire between youth and high school.
And you had kind of talked about that competition level with those hammers in the room, and Spencer Barnhart, who we had on the show a few weeks ago, who won a national prep title this year. We kind of joke that he's the mini Nick Feldman because he's so jacked. Wrestling like a guy like him, it's got to be fun because he's just so strong, but yet he's also a guy who's jumped levels from his freshman to sophomore year. And then, like you said, Nick O'Neill as well, and a bunch of other guys like Tommy Link in there. It's got to be nice to have those guys just in and around you at all times.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Now, talk about this past weekend. You wrestled in the Freestyle State Tournament, and you had a super tough match in the semifinals against Caden Williams, who's actually a world team member in Greco. Talk about that match. What was your mindset going into that, and what did you feel you did well? What maybe could you improve upon?
Well, I've known Caden for a very long time. I've known him since youth days. So like off the mat, we're definitely friends, but on the mat, it turns to like, enemies kind of thing. But I just, wrestled my match. I believe I did that. And then, some areas I think I have to improve on, just like the point scoring is definitely a lot different in freestyle. I think that, the change of pace is a lot different. And then I think that, there's definitely improvements I can make. Like I got forward at the end, halfway through the second period. So, if that didn't happen, like how could the score have changed, Right.
And is freestyle an area where you feel like you're still learning freestyle, or is it something that, I know obviously Coach Nate is transitioning you guys into a freestyle mode right now, obviously with the off season, if you will, but is freestyle something that you're, comfortable with, or just still kind of getting the feel for it?
For sure. Prior to this, Northeast Regionals and like freestyle states, I really didn't do that much freestyle. Gotcha. I mean, before the COVID year, I just did, like qualifiers and Northeast Regionals. I didn't go to states or anything like that. But there's a lot of great coaches that, Nate brings in, like Coach Rogers, the head coach at Franklin and Mark. So there's different looks. Some kids are better than other kids at freestyle. So some kid I want to point out to is Sean Patrick O'Donnell.
Yep.
He's very technical, and he can get the big throws on you. So just, getting these different body types and styles helps a lot.
Are you're planning on going to Fargo then?
Yes.
What's the excitement level like for that, just to get to a bigger stage? You've been doing it obviously in the state. Now you get to move on to that national stage and really try to make a splash there.
Yeah, well, even comparing it to the tournaments this year, I think the crowd's gonna be a lot more bigger.
Yeah.
I think it's just gonna be a bigger stage. I've in the past couple of days I've watched the Fargo videos, Fargo throws, Fargo vlogs and stuff like that. So just letting it sink in. It's gonna be amazing. I think I'm gonna have a blast with my teammates. And hopefully you can win some stop signs.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing you out there in Fargo, and look forward to you bringing home some stop signs. So, again, congratulations on just a amazing season, and keep it rolling. Keep it rolling right into Fargo. We want to see you bring back some hardware to Pennsylvania, and look forward to seeing you in just a couple weeks out there.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jack, for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure talking to you, and look forward to talking to you very soon.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Thanks.
Cheers, Jack.
Jack Consiglio, nice enough to join us on the line. And Eric, when you were reading his hit list, I mean, it's like, wow, he really
did that since January.
Right.
I mean,
that's the condensed time frame. You're
months.
talking about January, February, March, April, May, 5 months. You're knocking off, 3 state champs, a bunch of nationally ranked guys. And again, he's a kid who was a good youth wrestler, But you look at the credentials of like Mason Gibson or Rune Lawrence, like he didn't have PJW state titles to his name, but look at the way he's been competing. It's incredible to see that transition. And I hate to say it because we say it all the time, but it's something about that Malvern prep room, man. Coach Nate Lauder and his staff there, they have something going on where it's working, because you're seeing guys that come in and then boom, immediately jump levels. And, it's really fun to watch.
Did you get a Malvern prep out of all these kids on the show at least?
I don't even have a Malvern prep shirt. You're right.
Come on, Malvern prep. You got to hook us up here. This is what, like our third or fourth time we've had a Malvern prep kid on?
You would think I'm getting paid by Malvern prep.
Yeah. Are you? Are you getting a little kickback there?
I'm not getting anything. You're not. I don't see any tips on Rockfin quite yet. I don't see it, and there's nothing coming under the table either. So we may have to work on that. Jack Consiglio was one of many that did well for Malvern Prep, but he kind of stood out there at 113. Caden Williams does take third there. Another guy who we just mentioned was Mason Gibson, and Mason Gibson, my gosh, had a really fun tournament. He beat in the finals Camden Williams, who coming into the state tournament was the #1 ranked kid in the state. He beat the state champion Jacob Van D a week prior. I'm not saying, what could have been, but Camden Williams, if he would have wrestled, if we would have made weight and then wrestled like he did at the Super Regional, I think he would probably be our state champion this year. He gets second. Mason Gibson beats him 11-2 in the finals. Thought it'd be a little bit closer. Joe Simone from Waynesburg takes third. Tommy Link, who Jack mentioned, was fourth here. So a really good weight class at 120 pounds, Eric.
Yeah, and did you see the Mason highlight video? I mean, he's just bombing people.
I did. I feel like he does that. He does a lot of that for show, man. He wants those.
Well, every time I talk to him, he's like, I want to go out and put on a show, and he does.
Yeah, no, he certainly does. Devin Margot, he goes out and wins the title 126.
Magro,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, Magro. That's probably a name that we should know coming into high school here for a while. Gavin Smith
from McCourt kid.
Yeah. So he did really well. Nick Gorman from North Allegheny took third. Antonio Walker from Plum took fourth there. 132, Colin Rath. He's a kid that placed at the Super 32 as an 8th grader at 113 pounds. He's up to 132. Beats Jake Dune from Nazareth to win the title at 132. And JoJo Subishan, state medalist this year, he's in 5th place. So that kind of shows you where Colin Rath is. He's going to be going to Becca next year. Really excited to see him at that next level. Same with Luke Sipes. Luke Sipes won the 138-pound bracket, beat Bryson Vaughn of Notre Dame Green Pond. Brandon Edwards was also there, who took third. So a lot of really good youth talent that's coming up, Eric.
And a lot of it from Bishop McCourt. Sipes, another Bishop McCourt kid.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, I didn't want to, step on your toes with all the Bishop McCourt love, because I know you just did an article about Bill Bassett, who was recently named the coach of Bishop McCourt. Not really much of a surprise there, Eric, is there?
No, not a big surprise there. I mean, he says it wasn't anything that he had in mind whenever he actually is a teacher at Bishop McCourt now. But, I think most people kind of expected whenever all the Ranger Pride wrestling guys moved from Forest Hills to Bishop McCourt that eventually Bill was probably going to be the head coach there.
Yeah, I agree. I think most of us kind of assumed it was going to happen, and, kind of needed that year of transition, because it kind of, the things happened sort of into the school year last year, so it makes sense that he would take over at this point. Weston Chess wins at 145 pounds over Nate Campbell of Norwin. 152, Connor McChesney wins, beating Cameron Fix in the finals there. 160, Liam Skravenich. He wins in a pretty loaded weight class, because you had Ryan Garvik of Central Dolphin from Team Nowman, and also Vaughn Spencer, PJW state champion, very, very highly ranked 8th grader who's kind of come into high school next year and make some noise, I believe. He was third, and Zeke Dubler was 4th here. So this was a big weight class here from Liam Skranovich.
Yeah, that was a pretty loaded one, as you said. What do you know about Grit Mat Club? Grit Mat Wrestling, Mat Club. I haven't seen that too much before, but I noticed that a lot in this. Do you know much about them?
Yeah, I don't know much about the Grit Mat Club. I know they're based out of the eastern part, but there's a few on here that, it's almost like where'd you come up with that? Like
well, and sometimes that's the fun of freestyle and Greco is it's so loose. Sometimes it's like I'm gonna be like, I'm Upson trained, just
right.
like put anything down. But there were a lot of grit mat clubs that I saw on here. So if it was a joke, it was certainly a concerted one because there are a lot of good guys in that with the grit mat club after their name.
That'll be my homework for this week. I'll go in and look that up and make some contacts there. Grit Mat Club, should that be a real thing. 170 pounds Travis Stepatich of North Allegheny Pitbull Wrestling Club. We know that. North Allegheny, Sonny Abe. He was the champion and beat Magnus Lloyd of General McLean in the finals at 170 pounds. 182 pounds, Adrian Gasick. I'm not sure if I said that right, Eric, but he wins it over Tucker Painter, who we had talked about earlier because he won a National High School Coach Association title. So good win for him. And Danny Church took third there. And at 195, Henry Bernowski. Is that right, Eric?
Baranowski, I'd say.
Okay. He beat Aiden Height of Chambersburg in the finals at 195. 220, Zach Evans of Chambersburg wins the title over Ryan Casella of South Williamsport. 285, Ian Scully of the Compound York. You see the Compound in there, but you think of the Compound Johnstown, the OG Compound, but it wasn't that. It was the Compound of York. He wins it over Bailey Miller of Brookville. A lot of interesting results from the 16 and under division, especially in the lighter weights. I'm excited to see, and we're going to talk to Bill Evans a little bit about this when we bring him on, but there was a lot of good wrestlers, a lot of young talent that I'm excited to see how they do on a national stage, right? Because we've seen it from years where you're saying, oh, you're really good in PA, but once you get out there and you're wrestling guys from Illinois and Minnesota, California, Texas, we'll see really how you stack up once you get your hands on some of those guys.
Well, and we're a PA-based show. We love to brag on Pennsylvania wrestling, but the fact is we're not dominant in freestyle and Greco like we are in folk style. I mean, we've got some. I think if we sent our best guys all the time to Fargo, we'd be right there with Illinois and those teams. But, a lot of times we don't, either because they're on a world team or, they're just not wrestling freestyle. They're not going to Fargo, whatever it may be. But we don't always represent ourselves in the best manner out there, to the dominant level that we're used to in folk style.
I mean, you think back to some of the bigger names and, a lot of them, some of them, did Fargo, some of them didn't. I think back Sammy Sasso, Jake Woodley, those Trent Hidley, those are guys that we've seen in Fargo for years. Like Spencer Lee he never went to Fargo. And obviously
he was on a
he was a world
team.
teamer, right? Yeah. But I mean, a guy like Sammy Hilligus, thinking back to all these guys where you're like, hey, could they have done more out there? And, yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to talk to Bill about that a little bit and think, what is because it's almost like you have to sell it. You have to sell the idea to go out to Fargo. And I know it's an expensive trip. It's not easy, but Illinois is finding a way to do it. Minnesota is finding a way to do it because they're always bringing tough guys. California always has a tough team out there. So, we're going to talk to Bill here in just a few minutes. We're going to jump up to the junior division. Parker Senepal at the 106 pound bracket. He wins that. Major Lewis was second. 113 pounds. CJ Horvath. Really good tournament for CJ. Look who he finished ahead of. Now, Christian Horvath is a guy from Bethlehem Freedom out in District 11. Has never made a state tournament. He beat a guy who was a state medalist, Hunter Robeson, of Sagertown, but also Carson Wagner of Northampton. In fact, those two wrestled at the Redemption Duel, Robeson and Wagner. Really good showing there for Christian Horvath, Eric.
Yeah, definitely. And again, a dominant showing. I mean, he wasn't winning matches by a point there. He's got 3 tech falls on the way.
Cohen Baney, I believe cousins of Landon Baney. He's at Baltimore area. He wins it at 120 pounds. Jacob Haupt was there as well from Canada.
No Reese's cups for Cohen this week.
No Reese's for Cohen. Another guy who we had at the Redemption Duel, Gavin Bradley who was a state runner-up from Athens. He is third. Caden Milheim was fourth. Eric Howe was fifth, and Robert Gardner was sixth. That's a pretty loaded weight class. You look at
that's a really loaded weight
look
class.
At 1, 2, 3, 4 state medalists there. So yeah, pretty good bracket. 120 pounds. 126, another good weight class. Dylan Coy of North Allegheny wins it at 126 pounds. Beat Xander Fatoris of Waynesburg in the final 7-5. Dante Frenzy, a state medalist, was third, and Cannon Hershey of Oxford was fourth. So again, you look at the depth there, quite a few state medalists. And 132 was owned by Luke Simcox of Central Mountain. Luke Simcox beats Alazar Alicia from Manheim Township in the finals. And Trevor Husick.
Yeah, how about my boy?
How about him?
District 5 representing.
Beat my boy Matt Repos of Central Dolphin Law Wrestling. He beat him to take third, man. What's that about?
Yeah, Trevor Husick, that's a big win for him. I mean, he's a kid that has been pretty good. I know he had an injury that kind of derailed his not this past year, but the year before. You know, he came back and wrestled after it, but wasn't at 100% clearly. This year, I think he was a state qualifier, but, you know, didn't get on the stand. But, yeah, really big tournament there out of him, and beating Repos for third, I think, is really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, just in that weight class alone, and you know, do you know, is he a big freestyle guy, Eric?
I don't know that he is. I mean, you know, Tussey Mountain is kind of still pretty far away from me, so I don't see them too often. But traditionally, District 5 isn't huge into freestyle. It's kind of like we're gonna wrestle folk style as much as we can, and maybe dabble a little bit in freestyle.
Yeah, like Chestnut Ridge guys, I don't see a lot of them doing freestyle. So
no, they do some, but you know, it's hasn't traditionally been a huge thing in this area.
138 was an absolutely loaded weight class. I mean, Eric, look at the names here. Connor Pierce, 2-time state medalist. He ends up winning it. Braden Bauer of Williamsport, who's heading to Bucknell after his senior year. Connor Pierce beats him by tech fall 14-1. Braden Bauer beat Brandon Kletos of Notre Dame Green Pond, a Rutgers recruit, state medalist. He's absolutely one of the best guys in his class, and he finishes third here. Cade Wernsberger from Meadowbrook Christian takes fourth. Taylor Weaver, Central Mountain, takes fifth, and Nathan Roth is sixth. That's a really loaded weight class, Eric.
You didn't even mention Cole Bisco.
Well, yeah, and Cole Bisco, that's right. You're absolutely right. I
mean, that is a really loaded weight class.
All right, let's get 145 out of the way here, Eric. Who won 145? Who beat Jackson Arrington in the finals?
Oh, you always make me try this one. I'm sorry, I still haven't gotten it yet. Samagan Ulanulu, I think is how I'm going to go with it.
Ula, yeah. He's from Kyrgyzstan, and he's training out of the Pitbull Wrestling Club, and I think we've determined. I feel like there's a lot of mystery that surrounds him.
Yeah, this was the homework assignment I gave you over the weekend. Figure out what his deal is. Is he in high school? Is he not?
So I believe I've narrowed it down that he's either 18 or 19, I believe.
I thought you were going to say he's either in school or he's not. I've narrowed it down to that.
Well, that's funny. That's I believe he's either 18 or 19.
See, I thought I saw a thing that said when he came here in 2018 he was 14.
So that would make him
17, possibly 18 at this point.
So maybe he's 17. I talked to Frank Papalizio, and he knows him because he has a huge exchange program with guys from outside of the United States, and he had him over here one time. He beats Jackson Arrington in the finals. Now, I think he kind of wrestled like a very traditional
defensive kind of.
Yeah. I mean, and you see that all the time. I mean, look at the Olympics, look at the World Championships. You see that all the time.
Well, and I looked it up. He was a silver medalist in the Asian Games as a cadet. So, I mean, He's got international, obviously coming here, he's international anyway, but he's got those international chops that he's gone to those world type tournaments, continent type tournaments and done well there. So, I mean, that's, an experience that you can't really give somebody like Jackson Arrington who hasn't been at that level yet.
I want to know his deal. I want to figure out what his deal is. Like,
who
is he
can
staying
tell
in
us?
America?
Come on, somebody's got to know.
Somebody's
Pitbull
got to
Wrestling
know.
Club, North Allegheny.
Sonny Abe, let me know. let me know
reach out to us.
What's going on here, because we want to know what the deal is with him, because he you don't just come in and beat Jackson Arrington.
15-8 too. It's not, again, not a squeaker. I mean, he put up a lot of points on Jackson,
who we believe is probably one of the best in the we just talked about in the class of 2022. I mean, his stock has just gone through the roof after his dominating state tournament and dominating season overall. So, I was a little bit surprised to see that, but then again, maybe not, because he's kind of an enigma here. Cole Hammett, he took third here. Evan Mag was fourth. Andrew Christie was fifth. Nathan Lucier was sixth. That's a huge deep weight class.
That's not a bad weight class, huh?
That's a great weight class. I mean, you look at all the talent there.
Little sarcasm. Yeah,
okay, sorry, I can't.
No,
really tell with you sometimes.
I agree. Yeah, no, when you're talking Cole Hammett, Evan Mag, I mean, that's really deep.
152. Eric Gibson stops Jack Pletcher. He got forward twice, I believe. 21-10. Eric Gibson stops Jack Pletcher. Jack Pletcher has been on a roll since wrestling freestyle this year. Has some big wins, including beating John Altieri, Grant McKay. But Pletcher takes second. John Altieri was third. Michael Dugan was fourth. All-state medalist Dom Ferrantino from Shippensburg was fifth. Austin Foster was sixth. What do you make of Eric Gibson, Jack Pletcher?
I didn't get to see the match, so I can't give as much insight into as you did, obviously. I mean, 21-10, obviously they were going out there and not really holding anything back. You said that Eric got forward twice?
I think he got fireman's carried twice, yeah.
So, I mean, going out there and letting it fly, which is fun to see. That, as you said, Jack was really wrestling well and has been wrestling well since the end of the folk style season. We've been really impressed with what we've seen out of him. So, whenever Eric can go out and put up 21 points on him, that's pretty impressive in his own right.
I mean, and just think, Jack didn't make it to the Whippeal tournament this year, right? He was in a deep weight class, and he didn't even make it out of the section tournament. So, pretty impressive for him to bounce back and just have a really good freestyle season. 160 pounds, Jared Kessler, he wins it at 160 pounds over Colin McCorkle of Pitbull of North Allegheny, who's heading to Clarion. Holden Garcia of Lost Boys, Notre Dame Green Pond, was third. Sam Beckett from the Hill School was fourth. Roman Maroney of Williamsport was fifth. So, again, a very deep weight class there. 170, kind of the same story. Cole Spencer, who's heading to Penn next year, he wins it at 170 pounds, beats Aiden Miller in the finals. Tony Salopek of West Mifflin was third. Matt Colagesi, who was a state medalist from Council Rock South, was fourth. Manuel Santos of Seneca Valley was fifth. So some really good weight classes between 160 and 170. I'm hoping Cole Spencer goes out to Fargo because, I remember having Brian Pearsall out there in Fargo with us, one of the best, right? And I think he would really like having Cole out there.
Yeah, and it's a tough decision, I think, for a lot of guys. They've just finished up their senior year, they're ready to go off to college, and it's like, do you want to put that time and effort into it? And some colleges now are looking to get them on campus earlier and kind of get them going. Of course, now on campus is not necessarily a thing anyway, so I guess they could be taking classes from Fargo. Doing that. But I always enjoy whenever we can see some of those post grads going out to Fargo, because again, I think that's a big difference where Pennsylvania doesn't get those guys like in Illinois does most of the time. I
mean, I remember when Jake Woodley from PA wrestled Jacob Warner from Illinois at Fargo, and both of them were post grads, and I remember us saying to each other, like, this is a match that we're going to see throughout college, and sure enough, we saw them wrestle at the NCAA tournament this year. Both of them are All-Americans, so it's really nice to see when post grads from PA go out there, because like you said, sometimes they just don't do it, right? And
I'm hoping that maybe this year, a lot of the so maybe feeling a little bit fresher, and it's not like they've had the grind of that long season. Some of them did. I mean, there's still some schools that wrestled a lot of matches. True. But especially in the eastern part of the state, you got guys that were going into the postseason with 2 or 3 matches, so they may still be eager to get back out there and get some matches under their belt.
No, I agree with you. The season wasn't nearly as grueling or long. We talked about like Malvern Prep, Ironman, Beast, Powerade, Escape the Rock, all of those. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrestling that kind of schedule, so maybe a little bit more fresher. 182 pounds, Colt Bardley of Penn Manor. He wins it, beats Matt Furman of Canaan Mac in the finals, Tech Fall. Jagger Gray of Trinity, he takes third. Very impressed with Colt Bardley, a guy who, was impressive throughout his career, but maybe a little bit on the, back burner, if you will. He's going to Cornell next year. Jonah Barley, his older brother, is there already. At 195 pounds, Sonny Sasso has a great tournament, beats Ethan Rossman of Belfont in the finals by Tech Fall 18-7. Another guy who we had on the Team Pennsylvania for Wranglemania, taking on Minnesota and New York. He wrestled well in that against New York, not so well against Minnesota. He was just feeling a little sick in that first match. Really looked good this time around. Ethan Rossman, not a bad guy to beat in the finals. Liam Volk-Kloss, LVK is now going to be Liam Volk-Kloss's nickname. We had, RBY, we have HR. LVK is going to be Liam Volk-Kloss. He took third here. Brian Finnerty was fifth. Isaiah Reinhardt of Easton was fourth. Trent Schultz was sixth. Look at all those state medalists you have there.
That is a loaded weight class for 195. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Summer wrestling, you don't tend to get as many big guys. They're working out for football, doing whatever. So to see Trent Schultz taking sixth at the PA Freestyle Tournament is pretty amazing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, just saying it out loud, you're like, man, that really was a good weight class, And you look at 220, maybe not as big of names. Carl DeGiorgio was the champion. He was a state medalist this past year at 215 pounds. He wins it over Jason Sine of Notre Dame Green Pond. James Ellis of Ephrata was third here. At 285, Matt Cruz of Easton wins it. Harrison Levins of Germantown Academy was second. Julian LaVenture, Upper Darby, was third. Harrison Schoen was fourth. Wilson Spires of General McLean was fifth. So another deep weight class. Matt Cruz was a two-time state qualifier, one-time state medalist from Easton. So he won that title there at 285, Eric.
Yeah, again, good to see, not a huge heavyweight bracket, but still pretty well represented in the heavyweights. And, you love to see those big guys getting out there and doing some freestyle, just expanding that repertoire a little bit. And even if they are going to play football, I think this summer wrestling is good for them. Keep them in shape, keep them moving, and, work it in around a football schedule maybe.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who all of this group ends up going out to Fargo, right? And that's why I'm hoping we are able to talk to Bill Evans about this and figure out, if he knows, because he's going to be coaching the cadets, what's going on with who's going out, and all those types of things. Because Eric, you're going to be busy. You're not going to be you're not going to be in Fargo this year, unfortunately.
I'm kind of torn. Like, as much as I like and I'm excited about going to Budapest, like it was fun going to Fargo. Like that's a fun trip. Getting there isn't always fun, but once you're there, it's a lot of fun. You get to hang out with all of those PA guys and just really meet some of the young kids when they're cadets and develop a little bit of a relationship. You talked about Sammy Sasso. I remember that was really the first time I got to know Sammy, and now I see him anywhere and he's quick to come up to me and say hi and shake my hand and ask me how I'm doing, all that. So it's fun to develop those relationships when you get an opportunity to go to a place like Fargo and just spend a couple of days around them and get to talk to them a little bit and see them maybe during a little bit of downtime. It's just a fun experience for guys like us that love the sport and get a chance to be around all these great guys.
Well, I mean, think of Carter Starocki, right? I mean, we really got to know him big time there.
Back when it was pronounced Starocki.
Back before Penn State changed the pronunciation of his name. It was.
And I asked him at Fargo, I'm like, hey, we are pronouncing it right? It's Starocki. He's like, yeah. Now it's Starachi.
Apparently now it's Starocki. Well, now it's Bill Evans. Bill Evans. Yeah, you're on. You're on. Bill, you're live. Bill, how's it going? Where you at? You at a bar?
You have a restaurant. They have a bar. It's called the Thornhill Tap House.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about the cadet team this year. Tell us a little bit about how the cadet team looks to you, and do you know who's all going out to Fargo yet?
No, we don't have that information yet.
Okay.
A lot of that's still developing. Kids are going to have to make decisions. I mean, they have until July 1st to declare weights if they qualify at a regional. So there's still some things in the works.
Gotcha.
I would assume most of the kids that qualify are going to go.
Right. Bill, it's hard to hear you. It sounds like a rambunctious crowd not following COVID protocols.
Oh, is it loud?
It's hard to hear you, but we'll try to get you as many questions as we can answered. Just turn around and tell yeah, it's a little bit better. Tell everyone to shut up. You're on the you're on the show. Okay, we don't need any shenanigans going on. Bill, tell us a little bit about the PAUSAW and what's been going on with the organization as a whole, because I feel like, some things have been changing. Obviously it's not PAWF anymore, but it's PAUSAW. So, tell us a little bit about some of the changes that have been happening.
I mean, there was a change of leadership.
Sure.
So they made some adjustments, and this year has honestly been a little bit different, obviously, because last year we couldn't do anything as a result of the pandemic. So, and then this year there was different restrictions, and there was schools couldn't host qualifiers. So we had to kind of adjust in that regard. We had to find different venues. I had mine at Cool Springs in Bethel Park. So there was a lot of adjustments that had to be made by everybody. And so when it comes to now, there's some of the changes. Could you elaborate on which changes you want to know about?
Well, so how was the cadet and junior team selected? I know it this year was maybe a little bit different than how they had the kind of almost like a tournament to determine the teams this year.
Sorry, the waitress just asked me how I wanted my meat.
Of course she did.
Burger. Anyway, sorry. Okay, so how the teams were selected.
Right.
So we had a qualification tournament, kind of similar to a world team trial. And in that qualification tournament, we took the idea behind it is that the schoolboy teams would take 2, the cadet teams would take 2, and juniors at least want to try to take 2 if we got the numbers to do it. So we took the number 1 and number 2 in each weight class, and then if the weight class was uncontested after the tournament, what we would do is we would take the results from the state tournament to fill the weight classes. And then from there, we're going to try to utilize the results from both the qualifier and the state tournament to try to bring in some extras and things like that. So we're working on that right now. I actually have a conference called 8:30 tonight with the Pennsylvania USA Wrestling team.
What was the impetus for the change, Bill?
Well, I think any system that you're going to use is going to rely. There's going to be criticism. So I think that there were some people that thought maybe whenever the teams were handpicked and selected, that maybe there were people picked that was friends with this guy or this Jethro's uncle from whatever. So that could have happened. In all fairness, and I think when you had a change of leadership, some of the change of leadership, there's going to be sour grapes towards the way that the old leadership did things, right? I mean, I think we see that in politics now. So in every aspect, local, national, whatever. So what I think is that there was a way that things were done before. And in some ways, you could say that there's a positive to picking because you're like, oh, I know this kid's the best kid in the weight class or whatever, which in a lot of times is true. But there's also something to be said for we're going to have people wrestle it out, kind of like the seniors do, wrestle out the world team, so who's the best, and we're going to pick our team based on that event. It's definitely it's a more fair system, right? Because it gives everybody the opportunity to be a part of the team, even if they're a dark horse. So it gives those guys, an opportunity to, come out of nowhere and make a national team, go out to the cadet duels or junior duels and prove themselves, for one of these big time events. But then there's critics who would say that, well, wrestler, John Smith or whatever is better than Kale, and we should take John, even, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I think that was the rationale. Was a lot of people didn't like the way things were done, in the old group, and they wanted to see some changes. And that was one of the changes they wanted to see is as a qualifying event.
Now, they're also with the qualifying event, some of the changes included, the Greco and freestyle. Now, can you kind of explain how that worked and how you kind of were required to do both Greco and freestyle? Is that correct?
Well, for the qualifying event, no.
Okay. Just to go out to Fargo, I meant just to go out to Fargo.
Okay, yes and no. So for the Northeast Regional Championships, it was communicated that you had to wrestle both freestyle and Greco.
Okay.
And I think it was posted maybe on a Facebook page or something like that. But it wasn't correct. And it was literally an error. And I think that a lot of people communicated with the state chairman. The state chairman pushed the information out to everyone and said, you don't have to do both. And at states, pretty sure they told everyone you don't have to do both.
Gotcha.
So it was an error in communication that was rectified, I think, and it was something that I don't think will ever happen again. But at the same time, it was just a communication error. The Northeast Regional Tournament is a USA Wrestling qualifier. It's not a Pennsylvania qualifier.
Right.
So it's an auto qualifier. So Pennsylvania can get as many guys as they want through that tournament. It doesn't even affect our state numbers, because our state numbers only allowed to take a certain amount of people from the state tournament. So it was really just an error in communication, and it's going to be one of those things that next year they're going to make sure they communicate the right way.
Right, and the reason I ask, I mean, because I know a lot of parents were like, my kid, I don't want to wrestle Greco. I don't. Why do I have to wrestle Greco to go out to Fargo? But
right.
Like you said, and what you said about the Northeast Regional being a regional qualifier for a USA event, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Illinois kind of uses that same system where they send a whole bunch of their wrestlers to their regional qualifier, and they get a bunch of wrestlers qualified through that, and then they also have it through their state. So that's why you see like 400 Illinois wrestlers in Fargo, because they all qualified through different means. Is that right? Would that be accurate?
100% accurate. And what they'll generally do is either, I don't know if they restrict, but they highly discourage those wrestlers from going to their state tournament, because they want to have as many wrestlers at Fargo as possible. And we saw that this year with Pennsylvania, and especially with the condensed freestyle and Greco-Roman season. And then we had wrestlers that competed at the Northeast Regional Championships and the dual team qualifier, and people are going to Virginia Beach next week, and et cetera, et cetera. So we saw a lot of wrestlers that already pre-qualified either through UWWs or Northeast Regionals to opt out of the state tournament, which was good because it helped a lot of other wrestlers qualify for Fargo. And so we're going to have hopefully really great numbers at Fargo this year and win, 2 titles, 4.
Right, 4 titles.
Greco freestyle and juniors and cadets. So.
Now is that
girls? So we should win like 5 titles.
So is that something that's more like an organizational kind of, not, I wouldn't even call it a problem. Is it an organizational alignment where you kind of say like, because I feel like Illinois has it down to a science where like you don't have a kid wrestling in all those events because they want to qualify the most numbers. Is that, I mean, is that ever discussed? Like, how do we make it so we can get the most bang for our buck, if that makes sense?
I think they do. I don't want to say they have it down to a science, but I do think that they do have a system in place. This is how they do things.
Yeah.
And, but at the same time, I mean, it's really hard to compare Pennsylvania and Illinois.
Sure.
And I guess being put on the spot here, I think Illinois does a lot of things really well. They're a fantastic wrestling state, and but then we do a lot of things really well because we're arguably the best wrestling state in the country. They do some really great things organizationally. I think, like you said, with regards to their duels teams for freestyle and Greco-Roman, and how they push their numbers in the Fargo. And I think they do a fantastic job with that. I think maybe those are some of the things that we've looked at, because Illinois does do a qualifying event for their duels teams. Other states do a lot of different things. Like Oklahoma, I'm pretty sure they still do only we'll do a Greco team and a freestyle team. So the Greco guys will come in and wrestle Greco, and the freestyle guys will come in and wrestle freestyle. I'm not sure if they still do it, but they have done in the past. So other states, and Oklahoma's a wrestling state, obviously. So other states do a lot of things, and I think the Illinois model especially for Fargo, push a bunch of your best people through UWWs and Northeast Regionals, and then get the rest of the guys into Fargo through states, and then just, kind of overwhelmed by force is kind of how they do things at Fargo. So yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at that because they've always had a lot of success at these cadet duels and junior duels.
Sure.
There's them, Minnesota, it's a fantastic state when it comes to showing up for duels in Fargo. But yeah, I agree, Jeff. I mean, I really do think that we have discussed how other states do things just so we can learn and evolve.
Right. Like you said, you just got to stay on top of it, and we are the best state in the nation, so it's like, hey, we should be doing all the right things. Who's Dylan wrestling with right now? I heard you had some inside information. What's the deal? Can you give us any information?
He's hang on a second. I actually texted him.
Eric,
the good news is he's missing the Penguins game right now and not seeing.
I am missing the Penguins game. Wait, is it time?
It's almost 8 o'clock. You're fine.
You don't want to see what happened.
Oh my God. We were up 3-2.
Bill, is he in high school age? Can he go to high school next year, or what? What's he doing? What's the deal?
Who, Dylan?
No, not Dylan. Who he's training with?
Oh, so he's over at Pitbull. We had a after-school event, so Dylan couldn't go to class tonight. So Sonny practices a little bit later, about 6:30, so we came up here. And so I'm up in Wexford. And so he's wrestling with Sungun and those guys who you were talking about before. And great partner. I mean, honestly, from Dylan's standpoint, because he shoots a lot.
Yeah.
Wrestling with Sungun, who has great defense. I mean, they complement each other well, and they they become buddies, and it's a great partnership. So.
But what we want to know is he a high school kid? Is he out of high school? What's his status?
You know what? There's a serious language barrier there, so I never really. I mean, he's like the nicest, most polite kid in the world, but I don't really know.
So the mystery continues.
And hey, listen, my son's got another good partner. I'm not screwing it up.
True. I can't blame you that.
That's a Sunny question. Okay?
That's a Sunny question. I mean,
question.
You don't beat Jackson Arrington 15-8 or whatever it was, and not have questions raised about who are you and what are you doing and what type of impact can you have for Team PA because you're wrestling in PA.
Well, you don't beat Jackson Arrington at all. Without question. But yeah, especially in that fashion. I mean, at some guns, he's extremely talented. And
awesome.
He has amazing hips, and he just has a mat sense that it's almost like he's got a 50-year-old Russian coach in his head, right. And then inside an 18 or 17-year-old kid's body. So he's phenomenal. He really is. He's very good.
Well, that's awesome to hear, and we appreciate the inside information because we've been struggling to get anything. So.
I don't know how much inside I tried.
Well, Bill, we appreciate your time here tonight. I'm sure we're going to have you on again. I know we want to get Kyle Martin on to talk a little bit about what he's doing.
Yes.
Dr. Kyle Martin. I don't want to forget the doctor in front of Kyle Martin. Dr. Martin. We'd love to have you two on, maybe preferably when you're not at the carnival, and we can hear you. I mean, I know you're watching the Penguins games, but my gosh, you just you got your burger, your beer. It's a good night, and you got the podcast. You're on the show.
I'm drinking water.
Okay, all right, you're right. It's good. Well, Bill, we appreciate your time here tonight, and look forward to seeing you out in Fargo. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, me too. And we're going to start off with our cadet duels in a couple of weeks. And Jeff, whenever we finalize rosters, which we're going to finalize in the next couple of days, because we have to ask the people that wrestle in the state tournament if they're willing to go and things like that. And some of those fill in weight classes, and we have to get some extras, and we have to kind of develop. We're trying to work on that criteria and everything tonight. Get all those people locked down in the next couple of days. Once I get rosters and everything in place for the schoolboy cadet teams, I'll get them to you guys, and you guys can talk a little bit about it.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Bill. We appreciate your efforts.
Okay.
Appreciate everyone at the PA USAW. Send our regards on your meeting.
Okay.
Let them know we're willing to do whatever we can to help the organization out as a whole. So
we appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Bill.
All right, guys.
Good luck tonight with the
Thanks,
Pens.
Bill.
I will. I'll hang up.
All right, see ya.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
So Eric, we solved we got some of the issues. You notice how he said like 17 or 18. I think he said like something like the age, but I guess
we got nothing solved. We know nothing more than we
know
did.
nothing.
We know
he's
really good. He's really hard to score on, and he may or may not be in high school.
We know nothing. You're right. I was excited because during the show he texted me. He was like, "Oh, Dylan's training with him right now." I'm like, "Inside information. Here we go."
Yes. All right. Here we go.
Yeah.
We're looking out to our viewers here. Let us know what's the deal.
I sounds like only Sonny Abe and or a translator can figure that out for us.
You got any translators there with the police force that can
Oh yeah,
speak,
we have
stand?
We have plenty. I mean, I work with one of my employees speaks Farsi, speaks a bunch of different languages. I don't know if he can speak in whatever native tongue that is, but
we'll find one of those and we'll get him on the show. We'll get to the bottom of the mystery.
Well, it was almost like I needed an interpreter to hear Bill as well because Bill
was for the audio there
because Bill was in the middle of a sports bar. So when we tested our audio, we always like to test our audio with our guests beforehand. Bill was outside in his car and he's like, I'm just gonna pop off to this restaurant real quick to get on my computer and I'm thinking, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe in my head, I'm thinking like a Panera Bread or I don't know, like something. And yeah, it was a little loud. But Bill, we are going to have him on again because I would like to have Dr. Kyle Martin on as well to talk about the juniors as well as the cadets and just that whole process of how everything is working. And we love Bill Evans, so we're looking to talk more about that. Eric, we are now 3 minutes over the power hour, though we did get started a little bit late. So want to thank Jack Consiglio of Malvern Prep. Maybe out of this, having all these Malvern Prep guys, Eric, we'll get a Malvern Prep t-shirt. What do you think?
You'll get a t-shirt. I never get any love. Even Cleveland State, tells me they're going to send me a shirt. Nothing.
Poor Eric, like Eeyore.
Like Eeyore. Oh, no. Bother.
No, don't send your shirts to Eric. Just send them to me so I can keep on. It's funny because like Greg always complains about that too. I always take all the shirts and
your kid's running around with t-shirts down to his ankles. 2 years from now, I'm like, hey, whatever happened to that shirt I was supposed to get? Hey, never came. I don't know.
Well, that's funny because you gave me a Pit Wrestling Club shirt for a youth large. Dyson, I want my shirt back because my son can probably wear that next week because the kid's growing like at an exponential rate here. So I'd like that shirt back. A lot of good stuff here. State tournament was a success down at Spooky Nook. Looking forward to talking more about the cadet and junior teams, school board teams that are heading out to the national duels and also out to Fargo. And again, shout out Jack Consiglio of Malvern Prep for the win. And thanks, Eric, for that hit list that you gave because, man, once you put that on paper, you're like, that's a really impressive year for him.
Yeah, and especially like we said, I mean, it wasn't like he was wrestling 50 matches to get those. They were coming like almost every match. He's facing, state champion caliber guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, very impressive. And all the wrestlers who competed in the PA USA wrestling state tournament, both in freestyle and Greco, congratulations. Looking forward to seeing guys like Mason Gibson put on a show out in Fargo. So it's should be a lot of fun. I know you'll be out gallivanting around the world, but for us lesser folk, we'll be out in Fargo, Eric. So we'll send you a postcard. How about it?
Yeah, I like it.
Give me a shirt from Budapest too. I want a shirt.
Yeah. Youth large, right?
I hate you. All right. Well, that's going to conclude the Power Hour for tonight. Be sure to check us out at papowerwrestling.com. Check us out on Rockfin. We've got the class of 2022 recruits. We've got the class of 2023 coming up pretty soon because that dead period's over, and now college coaches can actually talk to kids in the 2023 class, so be on the lookout for that. And, of course, we have the National Freestyle Duels that we're streaming on June 27th. I wish it was January. It's June 27th. And PA Power is going to be sending a team. Be on the lookout for that as well because we're going to be dropping our team pretty soon and our coach. It's a pretty impressive team with a even more impressive coach. So looking forward to getting that rolling. And as always, wrestling fans, keep it classy until next time. We'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us tonight.